Stop scrolling for a second. This might be exactly what you need to hear right now. You've spent so much time trying to please people who were never paying attention, chasing approval from those who never clapped for you, and giving energy to things that only drained you. It's time to pull that power back. Focus on yourself, on your growth, on your peace, on your goals. Because the moment you stop seeking validation from the world and start building your own foundation, everything changes. You become unstoppable when your focus shifts from them to you. While they talk, you're working. While they doubt, you're evolving. And one day, they'll ask how you did it. And you'll smile, because the answer was simple all along. You focused on yourself. Stop seeking validation from others, because every time you wait for someone to applaud your effort or recognize your worth, you hand them the power to define you. Validation becomes an invisible chain that limits your confidence and creativity. It makes you dependent on external opinions that shift like the wind, keeping you trapped in cycles of self-doubt and insecurity. True freedom begins when you no longer need permission to be yourself. When you stop seeking validation, you start trusting your own instincts, ideas, and purpose. You no longer question your path. Every time someone disagrees or fails to notice your progress, you begin to understand that not everyone will see your vision, and that's perfectly fine. Your journey is meant for you, not for their approval. Every person has their own perspective, shaped by their fears, experiences, and beliefs. If you allow their opinions to define you, you will constantly shift directions, losing the essence of who you are. Confidence is not built by applause. It's built in silence when you keep showing up, even when no one claps. Seeking validation is a habit that can quietly destroy dreams because it places your worth in the hands of others who might not even value themselves. When you realize that most people are too focused on their own insecurities to truly see yours, you begin to free yourself from the burden of trying to please everyone. There will always be critics, doubters, and people who project their limitations onto you. Some will not support your growth because it reminds them of their stagnation. But when your sense of value comes from within, their words lose power. You start to live for purpose, not for praise. You move with clarity and conviction because you're no longer trying to impress anyone. You're trying to improve yourself. Validation from others may feel good for a moment, but self-respect lasts a lifetime. It's built through discipline, consistency, and courage to walk your own path even when no one understands it. Reclaim your energy and attention because the world is constantly fighting to distract you, to pull you in 1,000 directions, and to drain the power that should be fueling your growth. Every time you give your focus to meaningless comparisons, negative conversations, or people who don't add value to your life, you weaken your inner fire. Your energy is your most valuable currency, and how you spend it determines the quality of your life. The more you let outside noise control your attention, the less power you have to create the life you truly desire. When you reclaim your energy, you stop letting circumstances dictate your emotions and start taking ownership of your peace. Energy flows where attention goes, and most people waste it on things that don't matter. You can't build your dreams while feeding your distractions. Reclaiming your energy means becoming intentional with your focus, saying no to unnecessary drama, and creating boundaries that protect your mental and emotional space. Every notification, every negative thought, and every toxic environment competes for your attention, but it's your responsibility to choose where your mind lives. The power to stay calm in chaos, to stay grounded when the world moves fast, and to stay disciplined when everyone else is distracted comes from mastering your energy. When you start valuing your energy, you notice how much time you've been giving away to people and situations that don't deserve it. Not everyone deserves access to you, and not every battle is worth fighting. Some things only exist to steal your focus and exhaust your spirit. By reclaiming your attention, you begin to see how powerful you truly are when your energy is directed toward your purpose instead of your problems. You no longer react to everything. You respond with clarity. You stop overthinking what others say or do because your attention is no longer controlled by outside forces. Reclaiming your energy also means disconnecting from constant consumption and reconnecting with creation. When you stop feeding on distractions and start feeding your mind with purpose, ideas, and inspiration, your energy multiplies. You begin to wake up with direction instead of confusion. You stop scrolling through everyone else's lives and start building your own. Protecting your focus becomes a daily practice. You choose peace over noise, discipline over temptation, and purpose over entertainment. You learn to recharge in silence, to grow in private, and to move with intention. Your attention becomes sacred, your energy becomes magnetic, and everything in your life starts to shift toward balance and strength. The more you reclaim your energy, the more you realize how much of your power was being drained by things that didn't deserve it. The people who once distracted you lose their influence because your focus is too strong to be shaken. You become selective about what enters your mind, what you give your emotions to, and where your time goes. That's when transformation begins, because nothing is more powerful than a person who has mastered their energy and guards their attention like treasure. Prioritize personal growth and peace, because without them, success feels empty and life loses direction. Growth is not just about achieving goals, it's about becoming someone who is wiser, calmer, and more self-aware than before. Peace is the foundation that allows that growth to last. When you begin to prioritize your own evolution, you stop chasing things that only look good on the outside and start pursuing what feels right on the inside. You realize that peace is not the absence of challenges, but the ability to remain steady through them. Every time you invest in learning, healing, and reflecting, you move closer to your higher self. Personal growth means becoming conscious of your patterns, breaking cycles that no longer serve you, and learning to respond instead of react. In a world that glorifies business and comparison, personal growth and peace often get lost under pressure. People chase validation, money, and approval, forgetting that none of it matters if they lose themselves in the process. Prioritizing growth means slowing down enough to understand what you truly want and who you truly are. It means taking responsibility for your healing instead of blaming others for your pain. Growth isn't comfortable, it challenges your ego, forces you to face truth, and demands patience. But it's through that process that real peace is born, because peace comes when you stop fighting yourself. When you make peace a priority, you stop giving energy to chaos. You no longer allow negativity or toxic environments to control your emotions. You begin to protect your mental space like it's sacred ground, because it is. You learn to let go of grudges, forgive yourself, and move forward without carrying unnecessary weight. Peace gives you clarity, and clarity leads to power. It helps you make decisions from a place of wisdom instead of fear. The more peaceful your inner world becomes, the more effortless your outer world starts to feel. People who have found peace are not easily shaken. They move differently, think differently, and glow differently. Prioritizing personal growth and peace also means understanding that both require consistency. You can't grow without reflection, and you can't find peace without boundaries. Growth requires you to read, learn, and evolve daily, while peace requires you to rest, meditate, and detach when needed. It's a balance between striving and surrendering. When you align both, life begins to flow. You stop chasing moments of happiness and start building a permanent state of contentment. You become more intentional with your choices, your words, and your energy. People may not understand your calmness or your silence, but that's because you've chosen growth over gossip, peace over pressure, and self-awareness over approval. Every day becomes an opportunity to grow a little more and protect your peace a little stronger. You no longer rush the process or force outcomes, because you trust what's meant for you will align when you're ready. The journey becomes more about progress than perfection, more about depth than display, and more about becoming than achieving. Build your own foundation, not their approval, because the moment you start constructing your life around other people's opinions, you begin to lose the essence of who you are. Approval is fragile. It shifts with moods, trends, and perspectives. What people praise today, they might criticize tomorrow, and if your confidence depends on that, your stability will always be at risk. Building your own foundation means grounding yourself in your values, your beliefs, and your purpose so deeply that no rejection or judgment can shake you. It means knowing who you are before the world tries to tell you who to be. When you build from within, you become unbreakable because your identity isn't borrowed from anyone else's expectations. Many people waste years trying to fit into molds that were never meant for them, living lives designed to please others instead of fulfill themselves. They chase validation and forget that true strength comes from authenticity. Building your foundation is an act of courage. It requires you to be comfortable standing alone when necessary, to make decisions that align with your truth, even if no one understands them. Approval might bring temporary comfort, but a solid foundation brings lasting peace. When you create your own standards of success, you stop measuring your worth by external applause and start focusing on what truly matters: growth, integrity, and purpose. Your foundation is built through discipline, through late nights of self-reflection, and through the choices that no one sees. It's formed when you decide to keep moving forward despite failure, when you choose to keep faith even when the path is uncertain. Approval can't sustain you in those moments, but your foundation will. It becomes the structure that holds you steady when everything around you is uncertain. People will always have opinions, but their opinions don't pay the price for your dreams. You do. So build something real, something that belongs to you. A mindset that doesn't crumble under criticism, a vision that doesn't fade in doubt. When you live for approval, your direction changes with every voice that speaks louder than your own. When you build your own foundation, you walk with clarity because you know your why. You stop explaining yourself to everyone and start proving your commitment through action. You stop comparing your timeline to others because you understand that true success is personal and unique. Building your foundation means trusting your process and embracing your pace. It's choosing patience over pressure and self-respect over popularity. You no longer chase acceptance. You attract respect because authenticity always commands it. The strongest people aren't those with the most followers or praise. They're the ones who built themselves from the ground up with no audience, no approval, just faith and consistency. They poured belief into their vision when no one else did. They knew that applause fades, but character remains. That's what it means to build your own foundation, to create a life that stands firm, not because others approved of it, but because it was built on truth, resilience, and conviction. Let actions speak louder than opinions, because words are easy to say, but consistency proves who you truly are. People will always have something to say about you, whether you succeed or fail, but their opinions don't define your reality. What defines you are the choices you make every day, the work you put in when no one's watching, and the discipline you maintain when it would be easier to quit. Actions carry a power that words can never match. They create results, shift perceptions, and silence doubt. You don't need to argue with anyone about your potential. Let your effort do the talking. The loudest message you'll ever send is your progress. The world is filled with talkers, people who promise, plan, and proclaim, but rarely execute. What separates the dreamers from the doers is not talent or luck, but consistent action. You can't control what people think of you, but you can control how you show up. When your actions align with your goals, you no longer need to convince anyone of your worth. It becomes undeniable. Opinions fade, but evidence remains. The results of your dedication, the progress of your growth, and the integrity of your work speak volumes long after the noise dies down. Letting actions speak louder than opinions also means rising above negativity and criticism. You don't need to respond to every voice that doubts you. The best response to skepticism is achievement. Every time you choose to focus on improvement instead of validation, you take back your power. Silence becomes your strength, and productivity becomes your reply. The people who once questioned you will eventually see the results they couldn't imagine. You don't need to defend your dreams to anyone who lacks the vision to see them. Your consistency will make them believers. When you commit to action, you move from intention to transformation. It's easy to talk about change, but real growth happens when you take steps even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. Every small effort compounds over time, creating a story that no opinion can rewrite. Success is not built in conversations, it's built in execution. Every early morning, every late night, every sacrifice, and every moment of perseverance becomes proof that you believed in yourself enough to act. That's how legacies are built, not through talk, but through action. People may forget what you said, but they will never forget what you did. Actions leave an imprint that lasts longer than praise or criticism. When you focus on what you can do instead of what others think, you begin to live with purpose instead of pressure. You stop chasing approval and start creating impact. The truth is, no one can argue with results. Let your consistency silence their doubts. Let your effort humble their noise. And let your journey remind everyone that success doesn't need explanation. It just needs proof. Focus on yourself. Consistency creates success because the greatest transformations don't happen overnight. They happen through small, intentional actions repeated daily. When you learn to tune out the noise, the opinions and the distractions, and turn your focus inward, you begin to unlock your true potential. Success is not built in a moment of motivation. It's built in the quiet hours when you stay committed, even when no one is watching. The people who achieve extraordinary things aren't always the most talented. They're the most consistent. They show up day after day, refining their craft, improving their mindset, and growing stronger with every challenge they face. Focusing on yourself means realizing that your biggest competition is the person you were yesterday. It's not about comparing your journey to others or chasing what looks impressive. It's about aligning your habits with your goals. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you're planting seeds that will one day turn into results. Consistency turns effort into mastery and dreams into reality. It teaches you patience, endurance, and resilience. When you stay focused on yourself, you no longer depend on external motivation because your drive comes from within. You begin to trust the process even when progress feels slow, because you understand that greatness grows in silence before it shines in public. Success belongs to those who stay the course. It's easy to start with excitement, but it's consistency that carries you through the difficult season. Focusing on yourself helps you maintain direction when the journey feels unclear. You learn to block out comparison, to stop measuring your progress by someone else's timeline, and to honor your own pace. Growth isn't supposed to happen fast. It's supposed to happen steadily. Every small victory counts, every lesson matters, and every setback builds strength. The more you invest in your own improvement, the less you need to prove anything to anyone. Your results will speak for you, because consistency never lies. Focusing on yourself also means protecting your energy from distractions that drain your purpose. Not everyone will understand your focus, and not everyone deserves access to your time. When you stop trying to impress others and start trying to improve yourself, your life changes direction. Consistency becomes your weapon against doubt. Even when you don't see immediate results, you keep going because you trust that every step forward is progress. That's how success is built, not by bursts of motivation, but by relentless commitment. When you stay consistent with your goals, your habits, and your mindset, success stops being a distant dream and becomes a natural result of your discipline. The path may be long, the process may be slow, but the reward of self-mastery is worth it. Focusing on yourself gives you clarity, and consistency gives you power. Together, they create momentum that no obstacle can stop. Because success is simply the result of showing up for yourself again and again. No matter how many times life tests your focus, at the end of it all, everything comes down to one truth. Your growth, peace, and success begin the moment you decide to focus on yourself. When you stop seeking validation from others, reclaim your energy, and prioritize your inner strength, you start to rise above distractions and discover who you truly are. Building your own foundation instead of chasing approval gives you power that no one can take away. Letting your actions speak louder than opinions turns your journey into proof of your discipline and faith. And when you stay consistent, showing up for yourself day after day, success becomes inevitable. The world changes when you do. Focus inward, stay committed, and trust that every effort you make is shaping the version of you that was always meant to win.